good. Good morning, sir. How are you this
Welcome
morning?
back.
Nice to be back. Yes, my headphones aren't working, but that's okay. We'll persevere through that. We'll figure that one out as the podcast progresses. Yes, I'm back in Ohio. Something that I never thought I would ever do, drive across the country from Arizona. But events...
What possessed you to do that?
Well, while we were getting ready to leave, my 22-year loyal friend, my Ford F-150 pickup, gave up the ghost. And given how our lives are structured, with a third driver coming on soon and needing to be able to go get hay for the horse, everything's built around the horse, as you well know. You've emphasized over the years.
Life is, yes.
Everything. And landscaping and mulching and stuff, a truck is essential. And so while we were in Arizona, we put my father-in-law in the case of finding us a very good low mileage truck. And so we found one out there, priced it to comparable trucks in Ohio. It was significantly under that. And they were getting ready to send it to auction. And so we took advantage of that, and I bought it and drove it back home.
How long?
1,952 miles.
I could think of a million things I'd rather do.
Yeah, 1,952 miles. But I turned it into a Spielman mental toughness test.
Yes, that is a mental toughness
yesterday, I woke up in Joplin, Missouri. Had gotten a full tank of gas the night before. You got to prepare. No one waste any time in the morning.
Nope.
Hit the highway. 351 miles later, I stopped on the other side of St. Louis. Didn't run to the bathroom, where I was afraid I might have an accident, but I made it, hopped to the bathroom. Back in the truck, 351 more miles, pulled in the driveway 6 o'clock. So 702 miles, one stop.
That's strong.
702 miles, one stop. Yes, thank you very much.
Did you listen to the bowl games on the way?
I listened. New Year's Day was my Albuquerque to Joplin trek. And I listened to Michigan, and I listened to the first 3 quarters of the Rose Bowl, and then I got into my hotel and watched the final quarter of the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl was a great game.
Rose Bowl's always a great game to watch, and it was a great game. Except Wisconsin's got to be kicking themselves, fumbling that away at the end.
The fumble and the pass interference call was ridiculous. Again, I mean, I just don't understand how we can't get that right, and the problems continue with that call, and the fumble is the issue. Like, you have to overcome calls.
You do.
You're going to get some. They all balance out. I'm a believer in that they all balance out throughout the season. But in big games, you have to overcome calls by not self-inflicting turnovers, or stupid mistakes, or mental errors.
Dropping a punt snap.
Or settling for field goals.
Yeah.
All those things.
Didn't that kid drop a snap against Ohio State too? Didn't Wisconsin?
I don't know. They took him out of there.
Somebody did. Yeah, they finally got him out of there. I guess 2's their limit.
Well, he missed the ball, it looked like.
But he just dropped it. It's in his hands. Normally when you have problems on the snap, it's actually catching the snap. He caught it fine.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I will say this, and you and I have talked about this before. People say, one play doesn't lose a game. Well, sometimes one play does lose a game, because it happens at the end. The Brett Favre interception in the NFC Championship game. You're missing a field goal. Vikings. I don't know why all my exames are Vikings examples. Because they're the ones that bother you. And because they bother you, they bother me, and I remember them. But at any rate, a call with 3 minutes to go is harder to overcome than a call with, let's pull a time out of the air wildly, 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. It still hurts.
Yeah.
But there's less time to account for it. But you're right. Don't drop a punt snap and give Oregon a free touchdown. Don't fumble inside your own 30. Don't settle for field goals in the red zone. You can always blame other people. And this is true in life and football and whatever. It's always easier to blame other people than it is to look in the mirror and say, well, what did I do to put myself in a situation where, yes, an injustice cost me a game?
Well, yeah, and I thought Herbert was tremendous.
Oh, yeah, he was.
I mean, throwing the ball, he's pretty good. Running the ball, he was really good. 3 touchdowns. And what really stood out to me about the Rose Bowl was how tough Oregon's defense played.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really did a great job. And Pac-12, like the Big 12, is not known for its defensive toughness. But I thought that they were outstanding. And I watched the Citrus Bowl earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to beat up on Michigan. I mean, they are who they are. They're an average football team. It's an average program right now. You look at Coach Harbaugh's record, and these are just, it's math. He's 0 for 4 against Ohio State, and 0 for 4 in bowl games.
Yeah.
And the fact that
I think he's won a bowl game. He beat Florida his first year.
1 and whatever.
1-4, yeah, 1-4. He's lost 4 in a row.
So, and then he's 0 for 5.
0-5 against Ohio State. 0 for 5, yeah.
But I think Alabama had 9 starters out.
Yeah.
That 9 starters are out, Bruce, and that shows you that they're a ways away, and until they get a quarterback that is the caliber of a Justin Fields or a Herbert or somebody.
Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, look at the playoff. Joe Burrow. Look at the playoff team.
Until they get that quarterback, it's going to be the same. They're going to win 8 or 9 games, and they're going to lose 3 or 4 games.
That's who they are.
Every single year. And that's what they are, and that's who they are. And until that problem is solved or addressed, which it has not been, it has not been addressed, and that the biggest mystery for Michigan football still remains the inability to get a stud quarterback with that program, because a stud quarterback elevates everybody around him. And they have yet to have that, including when Rudock transferred from Iowa. He was a nice fill-in player for them.
If you're taking a transfer quarterback, and this is true of every program, you're the only reason you take a transfer quarterback is because you don't believe in the quarterbacks you have. Oklahoma with Jalen Hurts, Ohio State with Justin Fields. Ryan Day didn't want to go into the season with Tate Martell and Matthew Baldwin. He didn't want to. He thought Justin Fields was an upgrade. And Joe Burrow at LSU, they didn't want to go into the season with the guys that they had. So they were willing to risk offending those guys and having them transfer. And one of them did, and 2 did here. And that's just what happens. But the fact that Jim Harbaugh takes Jake Rudick and he takes John O'Korn and he takes Shea Patterson tells you he doesn't believe in the quarterbacks that he has. Because if he believed in the quarterbacks he has, he wouldn't be taking transfers.
Or developing the quarterbacks.
Right. And so he's not hitting a home run on the transfer quarterback market. He's doing I think he did the best he could when he got Rudick, and he did the best he could when he got Patterson. But you're not hitting the grand slam that Ohio State hit with Justin Fields, or Oklahoma hit with Hurts, or LSU hit with Joe Burrow, because let's face it, there aren't that many grand slams out there to get.
No, but you have to be able to identify them, and a lot of it's like NFL scouting, right? It's free agency, so you have to have somebody in your office in charge of quarterbacks around the country, or notes on when they were in high school, where they rated in your ratings, in your own personal ratings or team ratings or your individual ratings as a staff, and why is that guy not playing? And then once he enters the transfer portal, we can pull the trigger quickly or make a decision whether we want this guy or not. That is the wave. That is the future. You see the success. 3 out of the 4 playoff teams had transfer quarterbacks. You just named them all. And they were all really, really good. And the biggest one, I think that the most surprising one for me is Joe Burrow. Because Joe had a nice year last year. Not a great year, but a really nice, just a nice year. Then this year, what Joe has been able to do has boggled my mind. The continued week in and week out improvement. The accuracy, his accuracy improved so much over 1 year that I find myself at the beginning of the year, and people were starting to talk about it, Joe Burrow, first overall draft pick. And I was kind of like, man, I just don't see it. But the more I kept watching and seeing the decision-making and the quick trigger and the ability and mobility and the presence in the pocket and to be able to run and scramble and do all these things, it's been a joy for me to watch. And I'm so happy for that kid because, you think about it. Let's see. SEC champion, check. Chance for a national championship, check. Heisman Trophy, check. By the way, raise in your spare time, raise $500,000 for the Athens Food Bank in Ohio, which needs it. Check. And will be the pick unless Mike Brown, of course, decides that.
My goodness.
That that might be the. How do you mess that up?
You can't.
Kid from Athens, Ohio, going to.
You can't mess that up. I mean, that's just impossible given who that. And let me just say, we didn't see him being the number 1 overall pick. I made the completely erroneous statement here, which I always want to own those. And you and I talked about it, and I think we were both the same mind at that point in the season. Why would you draft Andy Dalton to take Andy Dalton's place? Well, the more I watch Joe Burrow, he's not Andy Dalton.
No, he's not.
And
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton's okay.
Andy Dalton's an NFL starter.
He is, but he's a guy who everything else has to be right for you to get where you're going. He's never won a playoff game. We know Andy Dalton's ceiling is established. I think Joe Burrow's ceiling keeps going up because the more I see him,
the more I like him. Yeah.
At some point in time, you got to say, well, there's a synergy here between ability and intangibles and leadership and all the other things that you want. And, for some players, the enormity of the task of being the franchise quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals would be too big. I'm not going to guarantee you that it's not too big for Joe Burrow, but I'm going to guarantee you that of all the players in the draft available right now while the Bengals have the number 1 pick, he's the best bet to handle that burden.
Well, remember I told you Urban Meyer gave me his checklist of what he sees in the quarterback, and throwing was number 6 on the list. Now, that's just Urban's personal preference, but it was, the intangibles were very high.
Competitiveness, leadership,
all that, toughness, and the making big plays in crucial times, smarts. I forget his list, but I just know because I asked him about that right away. And without hesitation, the first thing he said, well, number 6 is throwing. Then he went through his list. And I was thinking about this the other day and, watching Dwayne Haskins, because I got to see Dwayne Haskins toward the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Haskins has got a chance to be really, really good.
So the Redskins feel good about that.
I would feel good about it after what I watched. Now, don't forget, Dwayne Haskins' best wide receiver on the Washington Redskins was Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin was the number 3 or 4 wide receiver for Ohio State last year. Yeah. Was he not?
Yeah, Terry McLaurin's really good.
Other rookie wide receivers.
Yeah, you don't want your best receiver to be a rookie taken in the 3rd round. No. Like if your best receiver's A.J. Green or Julio Jones in their rookie year, okay, but it's a reflection on who you have if your best receiver is a rookie taken in the 3rd round.
And I was so impressed with Dwayne Haskins' growth. And the other thing about Dwayne Haskins, I asked Urban about this, and, how did Dwayne Haskins beat out Joe Burrow? Mm-hmm. Well, if you watch Dwayne Haskins in practice and you watch him play in the NFL, you can see how that can happen. Now, all things can be equal. I mean, Joe Burrow's had the year of a lifetime. I mean, it's a once every generation year that this kid has had, including his father betting $2,000 on him to win the Heisman at 200-1, and I think he ended up winning $400,000.
Nice, Jimmy Burrow. Way to go, buddy.
I mean, that's a big play right there.
That's a big play.
So I just think it's really cool to see that from what Ohio State has been able to do, and it's a really great story for Joe to have a degree from the Ohio State University and still develop here, and then be able to go to LSU and is doing what he's doing, and now he's going to play for a national championship against a team that dies hard. I mean, one thing you can say about Clemson, man, they are champions, and I don't think they're better than LSU. I think Ohio State is better than LSU. I mean, better by 2 or 3 points, just like that. But I think Dabo Swinney has these guys believing so much and what they're able to do, and there's so much talent, especially on the defensive side. I really like the linebacker. He's probably going to be the 3rd or 4th pick.
Isaiah Simmons.
He'll probably be the 4th pick overall.
Very versatile player.
Or maybe the 3rd, because the Lions might take him, but the Lions need a corner, and the top corner coming out is Jeff Okudah, which, by the way, that letter to his mom was pretty cool. I don't know if you had a chance to read that. And then we had J.K. Dobbins declare for the draft while you were gone, so it's a lot of good stuff. It was a great year for Ohio State. I feel bad for those kids because I do believe that they are the best team in the country. And if it was a best-of-3 series, I think nobody could beat Ohio State in a best-of-3 series. But in our great game of football, it's not. And that's why I say you don't have to be the best team. You just have to be the best team on that particular day. And Clemson was the best team on that particular day.
We looked at that game every way I thought we could possibly look at it. And then yesterday, while I was listening to ESPN radio, somebody threw out a assessment of it in a way that I hadn't thought about that just hit me right in the head, that Ohio State got outscored in that game 29-7. It was 16-0.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they got outscored 29-7. I hadn't thought of that, and it didn't feel watching it live there at the stadium like they were being outplayed to that degree. But you think about Clemson scored 29 points in a half and 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's champions. They find ways to get it done. And the whole game. I mean, obviously you had the touchdown taken away, which was awful. I mean, it's just
it's a huge momentum
terrible call. But regardless of that, 0 for 3 in settling for field goals instead of touchdowns. And the big play, and I remember we talked about this on air, but it's worth reliving because because of the way I announce a game and broadcast a game. I'm one of those guys that say a game against two teams always comes down to 7 or 10 plays. You just don't know when those 7 or 10 plays. The biggest play of that game might have been when that kid tripped J.K. Dobbins. Because how many times have we seen J.K. Dobbins get caught from behind or get touched from behind?
Not lately, not this year.
No. So anyway, I got to let it go. I got to let it go.
Yeah, we all do. Okay, let's read a review, and we want to thank you for reviewing the podcast. You can go to iTunes and do that, and I had 3 guys do that since the first of the year, which is awesome. Here's from Get Better Each Day. He says, Bruce and Chris are great. They speak the truth, positively entertaining on so many levels. Love their humor, sports knowledge, and life advice. Oh, and Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson are awful. Good luck, Bruce, in 2020. Good things happen to good people, and you are a good person. Well, thank you very much.
Do I get bad luck or
no? I think
I'm omitted from the good luck.
You know, I had somebody else say, "Boy, you really went deep stream of consciousness after the Fiesta Bowl," and I thought they meant on the game, and then they said, "No, you talked about your own 2019." And honestly, it's 4 a.m. I don't remember what I said, but I.
You were talking about yourself.
I think I was talking about my 2019, and 2019
somewhat challenging.
2019 was a good year because good things happened out of something that was unforeseen, losing the zone. So it was all right. So appreciate the reviews very much. Very much. Now, you guys, we'd love for you to win the couples membership to Premier at Sawmill Athletic Club, and the entries are rolling in. You have a couple days left to enter. We're going to draw that next week. Go to SpielmanandHooley.com, and the entry form's right there on the front. You can't miss it. Couples membership to Premier at Sawmill. It's right at Sawmill and Bethel, just a little bit. One direction from it, away from town, toward the river. Just a phenomenal facility, and we want to thank Jim Miller, Regan Koivistu for making that available to us. You cannot be an existing Premier member, but if you'd like to get in shape in 2020, it's the time of year that everybody comes up with the New Year's resolutions. You, your wife, get in shape. You have kids. You can add the kids on for a minimal cost, even just to hang out at the pool in the summertime. It's definitely worth it. You get all your most of your fitness classes. I'm sure there's some you can pay for individual fitness instruction, but you get aerobics, and you get yoga, and you get strength training, and you get all that. You get ellipticals and steppers. It's the best fitness club in Columbus, and beautiful, clean locker rooms. So enter and win that, courtesy of Premier at Sawmill Athletic Club. Okay, Mr. Spielman, I know this will shock you. I was listening to Jimmy Haslam yesterday talking about his vision for the Cleveland Browns, and let's just say that he sounded an awful lot yesterday like he has sounded many times in the past. Okay, so that was yesterday. That was not when he brought in Mike Pettin, or when he brought in Hugh Jackson, or had Sashi Brown, or he had Ray Farmer, or he had other guys. We're rebooting the reboot of the reboot of the reboot.
He has no other choice. I mean, what else do you expect him to say?
Two things can be true, and I heard a lot of Cleveland radio hosts griping about this. How can you trust Jimmy Haslam to get it right? Well, I don't know that you can, but
what choice do you have?
But continuing with what's wrong is not a better move than trying again to get it right.
So the only question I have, and I think if I were a coaching candidate or a GM candidate for this position, What's a guy that lives in San Diego? What's his role? Paul
DePodesta.
What's his role?
Chief Strategy Officer.
What strategy of what?
Okay, so here's the best portrayal of Paul DePodesta's role that I can give you, and I must credit Albert Breer of the NFL Network, who you and I've had on a radio show before. He's a big Buckeye fan, and he's with, I think Albert's with SI now, or Monday Morning Quarterback.
Somebody, he's on.
Okay, so Albert's connected. Albert says Paul DePodesta, when Jimmy Haslam said Paul DePodesta is going to run the search, what he means is DePodesta, remember his title, Chief Strategy Officer, that DePodesta is going to establish the parameters for how they will conduct the search. We're going to interview this guy, we're going to interview with this process. Here's the process of how we hire a coach. DePodesta's an analytics guy, so he's very purposeful in his thought and all that.
He doesn't even live
I know, he doesn't live in Cleveland. But he can establish how you go about finding a coach. Again, I'm trying to put the best face on this as possible. Okay. It sounds to me like Albert Breer's opinion is DePodesta sets forth the parameters for how Haslam and his son-in-law and his capologist and the eventual head coach hire are going to pick the GM. So DePodesta sets the parameters of the search, but he doesn't necessarily decide who gets the job. That's the best portrayal of it. I don't know. That may not be right. But that's what Breer said is DePodesta's job.
He's not around the program.
No, he's not.
Never there.
Well, no, that's not true. He is
there.
He's there
a week or
He's
something.
there. A lot of people tell me he's there a lot. Look, I lived in Cleveland.
What's he do?
Well, here's the thing. I gotta at least mention this. I had a job in Cleveland, and I didn't, quote-unquote, live there. I lived there 5 days a week. I had a house there. I don't know if DePodesta has a house there. He probably doesn't. The Browns own a bunch of houses in Berea. He probably stays there. But I lived there 5 days a week, and then I would come home on the weekends. So did I live there? I mean, yeah, I felt like I did because I didn't see my wife and kids. So I don't know how much Paul DePodesta is there. He's there some.
Okay, what's he do?
I think he analyzes data. Chief Strategy Officer tells me he analyzes data. He's looking at, all kinds of stuff. I don't know because that's not my realm. So
does he look at the stuff and go tell the GM and coach what to do? I don't know.
I don't think he tells them what to do. I think he gives them information on,
okay, so
you might want to think about this.
Everybody has an analytics guy.
Yeah, everybody.
So that's
everybody.
Not anything different.
Not anything new.
So I guess you don't have to be there to do that, as long as he's not making any of the decision-making process, and all he's doing is providing information so that the decision makers can make the decision. Here's what I've heard.
Okay.
That Mike McCarthy will come if Elliott Wolf is general manager.
Elliott Wolf is already there. He was brought in by John Dorsey from Green Bay.
And Mike McCarthy will have a shot. And
he interviewed yesterday.
It's a package deal. Just like it's a package deal with Nick Cicero and Josh McDaniels.
It's actually John Ziegler is going to be the guy. I talked to somebody yesterday who would know that. I said, who's McDaniels' guy? And he said, John Ziegler. I guess Ziegler and Josh were John Carroll University.
Okay, then John Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. Well, regardless, the formula remains the same, that the head coach is going to want his GM.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really necessarily have a problem with that, because I do think those guys have to work hand in hand, and they have to trust each other and know each other. And the head coach says, I trust you to go get the players that I want. Then the general manager says, I trust you to develop and get the players to play at the highest level that I bring to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the direction. Now, the other thing that keeps popping up, and I don't think it's going to ever happen, I have no inside information, is that Urban Meyer's name keeps popping up.
Bruce Feldman yesterday of Fox Sports did the Rich Eisen show. He did 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Bruce Feldman says Bruce Feldman's with The Athletic and Fox Sports. He says he's hearing from multiple people that that there's mutual interest. The Browns have strong interest in Urban, and that Urban has strong interest in the Browns. Haslam yesterday was asked about Urban specifically by Tony Grossi, and he said, we're looking at people with NFL experience. And then Tony said, well, does that mean you won't go back to him? And he goes, I think I just was clear on what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that doesn't mean no.
That doesn't mean he's looking for make it NFL experience with the GM.
He could say that, or he could say, well, we look for guys with NFL experience. We liked Urban better.
Yeah.
One thing about Jimmy Haslam, I think is fair to say, whoever talks to him last has the most influence over him. So I wouldn't want the first interview with Jimmy Haslam. I'd want the last interview. Because here's the thing. Don't overthink this. This is what I would tell the Browns. Don't overthink this. I think you made the right move getting rid of Freddie Kitchens. That was a no-brainer. I favor the firing of John Dorsey. I know a lot of people don't. I think John Dorsey didn't want a strong head coach. He wanted to run the operation and the organization. John Dorsey did the same thing Mike Holmgren did in a different way. Mike Holmgren took advantage of a clueless owner, Randy Lerner, came in and didn't work hard. I think John Dorsey worked hard.
Oh, yeah.
But he saw a clueless owner that he could come in and outkick his coverage. John Dorsey should not have been running the entire operation. I think John Dorsey can be an okay GM, but when he ran the entire operation, I cannot absolve him of responsibility for much of the dysfunction that I saw on the team. He didn't rein in the Browns last summer. He's the experienced hand there. Freddie Kitchens isn't. He didn't rein in the Browns when they were talking about how great they were going to be. He let the visors and the watches and all that nonsense happen. And so he's not absolved of that. So he made some bad personnel decisions. I mean, right now, hey, I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's not the quarterback of the Browns for the future, but here's what's indisputable. John Dorsey had the first pick in the NFL draft. He picked Baker Mayfield. 2 quarterbacks picked after Baker Mayfield have their teams in the playoffs in their second year, and one of them is going to be the NFL MVP. Now, you can say nobody saw that coming. It's John Dorsey's job to see that coming. There's only 32 jobs in the NFL like John Dorsey had. That's a very exclusive club. You're paid to see those things coming. So I'm not firing him because he didn't pick Lamar Jackson, who I don't believe in is sustainable, or Josh Allen. But I'm saying all the people who just gloss over the Baker Mayfield pick, you can't be sure about Baker Mayfield. He blew the first pick in the second round of that draft. Austin Corbett. I know Denzel Ward made the Pro Bowl, but over time, are you sure Denzel Ward is going to be the best player to have been picked at number 4? Not if he keeps getting hurt every year and sitting out 3, 4, 5 games.
You can't predict that. You can't predict injuries.
I said it in the very beginning. Denzel Ward's a slight kid playing corner in the NFL. How do you know he's going to hold up over time?
You don't know that about any player.
But pass rushers live longer than corners in the NFL. And
I Siggy Ansah that. I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Terrell Suggs, who's the guy from Syracuse?
Yeah,
Dwight Freeney.
Then I can name Richard Sherman. I mean, we can play the name game
and
go back and forth all you want.
Affecting quarterbacks is having a quarterback and affecting quarterbacks. I'd have picked Bradley Chubb, and yes, I know Bradley Chubb had a knee injury and was out this year, but I'm just saying.
I still would have picked Denzel Ward.
John Dorsey has not hit the home runs people think he's hit. He hit one with Nick Chubb. Yes, he did. So I'm just saying. Dorsey, I think, is fine. He's got to go. 2 things can be true at once. The 2 guys you have are not good enough, and the owner you have is not good at picking people.
Dorsey would be great what Jimmy Haslam wanted to do with him. You're in charge of
personnel.
Go find players.
Go find players.
That's what your job is. And take it to the GM and let the GM decide whether.
The coach.
And the GM.
Well, you said Dorsey's picking the players. And
I put him as the director of player personnel.
Okay, great.
Or something like that.
He shouldn't run an organization.
My point... Look, I think Baker's got all the ability until he is humbled and willing to listen to others around him and saying that, hey, Baker, I'm not telling you what to do. My goal is to make you a better player. And why don't you accept that and understand that maybe, just maybe, you don't have all the answers. Maybe you might want to listen to somebody that knows what it takes and has worked with and coached great quarterbacks and learn from those guys. Mm-hmm. I think Baker's thing is, that thing turned me off so much a couple weeks ago. I know what I need to fix.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you... okay. You know how to fix it.
How do you know?
Yeah, how do you know? Because it's not working, because if you were going to fix something, you would have fixed it this offseason. Instead, you got worse instead of getting better.
Yeah.
He can be so good. I just don't understand his mentality until he humbles himself and says to himself, there are people that out there that are going to help me even be better than I am, instead of saying, right away, hey, Baker, you could probably use some help. What are you saying, I'm stink? I'll fight you right now.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
If you don't want to be coached, you don't want to get better.
That's true.
If you don't want to be coached, you don't want to get better. That's just flat out.
I think Mike McCarthy would be the best guy.
I
for
do
the
too.
Job.
I'm just. That's why I said in the beginning, don't overthink it. You want a. They said yesterday, want a proven NFL coach. There he is. He's won a Super Bowl. He's dealt with a headstrong, enormously talented quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. He fits with a guy who's already